And just like that, it became a case study on diversity, the execution, perception versus what you actually achieved. And the reason why I think it's a really interesting case study is because A, and just like that, is a franchise that has money. B, by the way, no spoilers, this isn't actually about the show itself, but it's about the premise of how they've done things and how corporates can actually learn from that. Because looking at it, they have money, which means they can get the best of the best. It's been often and explicitly spoken about that they had black writers in the room. But when you read within the black community, the feedback is still that the insertion of black characters has neither been smooth nor natural, but also is still in many senses upholding stereotypes around black women. So you have the what's her name? One of the characters played by Nicole Ari Parker, but still in this context of having a dinner with all well-educated black people, it all was very stilted. You have, you know, talking about Miranda and talking about a black university person and lecturer and dreadlocks and all this kind of stuff. But the point is really this, and this is what we have to think about. In having black writers at the table, how much power did they really have if the end result has still been reaffirming stereotypes of black women? And this is where it becomes really interesting to me, because this is really reflective of how a lot of corporates are working, which is bringing in black women as potentially chief diversity officers. I have no issue with the role in and of itself. This is not what it's about. But it's how much power are you giving people in these roles to be able to make systemic changes so that the output has changed, so that the outcome is different, so that the impact is different. Because having somebody at the table is very different to having them at the table and giving them the opportunity to create change and impact. And it puts me once again in mind of what I posted a couple of weeks ago, the article in Bloomberg that says there are loads more women on boards in banks, yet still the women are saying they still don't have power. So once again, this is how, for me, and just like that, is a really interesting one. And, you know, let's see how it develops. But having the presence of black women or black people within the writer's room, and having the presence of black women within the show and women of colour within the show hasn't necessarily changed the dial and the effect and achieved all of a sudden what they hoped, which is potentially black women say we see ourselves in this space, or women of colour, we see ourselves in this space. Because fundamentally, and this is just the feedback that I've gotten, anyone who's watched it can tell me otherwise, but just having taken a broad snapshot of all the different news outlets, they've wholly and solely missed the mark of truly creating a multicultural, creating rounded characters with nuance and depth, but rather have done a broad stroke of adding something in to make sure it's there, but not taking the time, care and patience to make sure it's rounded. And I think for that, there's something to be learned. As companies try to make these changes, it can't just be we have more, we have somebody on the board, we have somebody in management, we're going to hire more, because it can still do more damage than good. The intention might be good, but in the end, it's not the intentions that always count. It's what is the outcome and what is the impact. And that's why I found, and just like that, a case study, a great case study. Now, for those of you who may have watched it, please feel free to chime in at the bottom, tell me you felt different. But this is what I've got from the black female community, from the women of colour community, but also seeing it from both sides. So interested to hear your thoughts, but that's just my take on it. So have a great day. Bye-bye.